So the Gemara that we learned yesterday, we did the Mishnah, and the Mishnah talked about rain. Uh, the of course it mentioned about the importance of making your sukkah into your permanent dwelling, and the house should be considered like your temporary dwelling. And then the Mishnah talked about the rain, which we had a big discussion about the exact criteria of when a person can leave the sukkah. The Mishnah says it's misha tisrach hamikpah, when this type of dish becomes um, disgusting, when it's not loses its enjoyment. The rainwater ruins it, and that's the measurement we talked about. Like, how does that work? Is it only if you have such a dish that if it gets ruined, that's the measurement? Is that the normal case of tsar? Is that the Mishnah telling you that's the general understanding of what what mitztaer is? That we know that a person who's uncomfortable is allowed to leave the sukkah. Is this a later measurement of mitzvah, meaning even a person who is in pain from the rain, is uncomfortable from the rain, maybe they still have to stay in the sukkah? Was one of these ideas we mentioned, because maybe it's inappropriate to rush out of the sukkah. So the Mishnah, or because no one is going to be eating in the sukkah. If everyone would leave right away, you would have like no one fulfilling the mitzvah of sukkah. So therefore, would make sense. The Chachamim felt appropriate to tell us, to obligate us to stay in the sukkah even though it's raining. So again, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that you are not mitzdayer, you're not feeling uncomfortable, and yet because Hashem is telling you that He doesn't want your service, so therefore you leave even though you're not mitzdayer, even though you're not in pain. So again, we got both ways of looking at it. One way is, even though you are in pain, you should stay until the food gets ruined. But the other way of looking at it is, no, even though you're not in pain, but nevertheless, you're exempt from being in the sukkah because the master is telling you he doesn't want your service.
Rabbi, question.
Yeah. Yes.
Is this related to a person when you're ready to leave for shul? You shouldn't rush out of shul. You should first when you first go out until you're a little bit away from the shul, you shouldn't really rush.
Shouldn't run out of shul.
Right.
If I remember, I mean, that would be the reason, seemingly, of it looks like you're rushing away. Tina kabayreach mebeis sefer, like a child running away, running out of school, want to get away from this. So yeah, it would be very similar to that idea of going out of the going out of the sukkah, that in a way that it looks like you're not happy with the sukkah, you're angry, you're disgusted with the sukkah. So that is one of the interpretations of that. Even though you're mitztaer, even though you're in pain, you still wait until a certain amount of rain comes before you actually leave. Otherwise, it will look like you're running away. So that's one of the interpretations. I did want to just see what Shulchan Aruch, which one does the Shulchan Aruch seem to follow. So in Shulchan Aruch, chapter 639, it talks about these laws, and it mentions here it has a somewhat of a lengthy discussion about the rain. It says it mentions an argument that we've talked about. When it rains on the first night of Sukkot, are you then still obligated in eating in the sukkah, or or because the obligation on the first night is based on another source. It's based on the teaching from Pesach, and therefore, even if it rains, there's no exemption of mitztaer, of being in pain. That's one way of looking at the first night of Sukkot. The other way of looking at it is no, you're still exempt, just that you have an obligation to eat in the Sukkah, but the fact that it's raining would be an exemption of not eating in the Sukkah, and therefore you should wait until afterwards and so on, and then at least fulfill the mitzvah of fulfill the mitzvah of Sukkah, but really the obligation of Pesach is not doesn't override the obligation that we learn from Pesach, doesn't override the rain. It doesn't override. So that's a discussion about the rain. But then comes the law of me'emasai mutter lefanois min hasukah. When are you allowed to leave the sukkah because of the rain? So it does a little tie into this. It says on all the other meals besides for the first night. So once the rain reaches the amount that if you would have this type of a dish, like a bean dish, it's a tavshil shel poil. Poil is some type of a greasin, like to some type of beans or something. So that normally gets ruined very fast with a small amount of water. So that's the way the Shulchan Aruch, at least this is the way the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch brings it. And we'll soon see the regular Shulchan Aruch, but the Shulchan Aruch Harav, the Alter Rebbe brings that the reason is that the point is that what we're seeing here is that it's the accepted way in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is that this type of dish, it actually gets ruined very fast, and a small amount of rain will ruin it. And you're at this point, hareze yoytze min sukkah, you can go out of the sukkah, even though you don't have this type of dish you don't have this type of food in front of you. Nevertheless, that is the measure. If this amount of rain would fall, you would be exempt. This would exempt you from the sukkah. And the person who's not a bucky and knowing exactly how much that is can evaluate if rain would fall when you were in your house and you would leave your house, then you could leave the sukkah. So what the measurement of this dish of some type of beans that gets ruined is giving an example of how lenient it is. That's basically the point of that. Even if it's just this amount, you would be allowed to leave. So again, we had two ways of learning. Is it a large amount of rain that ruins this dish of beans, or is it a small amount of rain? The Alter Rebbe is learning that it's a small amount of rain. Even that, you're exempt. And it does bring this law that when you leave the sukkah, you should leave with humility, that as if your master said, I don't want to have your service. Now, there is one more line that I wanted to bring from here. And that is that this all applies to eating, but sleeping, you don't have to use this quantity of rain. Even a small amount, there's pain to sleep when it's raining, even a smaller amount. So you don't measure if the food will get ruined, but rather if there's pain from sleeping in the sukkah in the rain, then you're exempt. And then he says that the same way you're allowed to leave because of the rain, you're also allowed to leave because of the heat or the yatushim, the mosquitoes, even if a person is not in pain, but the food gets ruined. And the same thing would be if it's very cold and the food, hamaycholim hashmenim, the fatty foods are getting nikroshim, are getting hardened. You know how oil hardens in the refrigerator? So if
congeal, I think
congealed, yeah, it congeals. So if your food is congealing, so even though you're comfortable, but if the food is congealing, that is the exemption of eating in the sukkah. So what we're seeing here is that and this is my understanding of how the Alter Rebbe is learning the Mishnah, and that is that there is an exemption of mitzdayer. That's you're in pain, you're uncomfortable, you're exempt, you're allowed to leave the sukkah. But there's also another exception. No, I shouldn't say but, I should say in also there's another exemption, and that is you're not, even if you're not in pain yourself, but this is not the normal way of eating. The food is getting a little ruined. If the food is getting a little ruined, in the measurement that the Mishnah gives, which is the measurement that the Chachamim said is the ruling that food is going to get ruined, that food is ruined, that's also an exemption from eating in the sukkah, because that's also considered, you're not mitzdayer, but it's still considered this is not the normal way you eat food in your house. It's not, so this is like an additional exemption. Again, what we're trying to answer and reconcile is, how does this Mishnah fit with the concept of mitzdayer? We know mitzdayer is exempt. If a person is uncomfortable, they're exempt. So what do we need this Mishnah for? To tell us about the rain? I know I'm exempt if it's uncomfortable. No, the Mishnah is adding a new leniency, that not only if I'm uncomfortable and I'm in a discomfort, I'm in a situation of discomfort, but also if I'm not in a situation of discomfort, if the food is not the normal way of eating the food, the oily food is getting congealed, or the food, the case of the Mishnah is the food is getting ruined in the rain. It's becoming disgusting to eat the food that has water mixed with it. So that is also an exemption of exemption from being obligated to eat in the sukkah. So that would be the way the Alter Rebbe is learning. So it gives us in other words, we saw different commentaries. Now we see how the Shulchan Aruch is following. What is the pathway that the Shulchan Aruch, the final halacha, is using as the understanding of our Mishnah. And now, if we, I don't want to leave out the Beis Yosef and the Mishnah Berurah. So let's take a look here. The Mishnah Berurah from the Beis Yosef, the Mechaber, in it's chapter 639. It says here, so if it rains, in paragraph 5, if it rained, person can enter the house. From when is he allowed to leave? From when the rain comes, enough drops that if it would fall in a tavshil, in a food, that food will get ruined, even if it's just a tavshil of oil, even if it's just some type of bean dish. In other words, again, the Shulchan Aruch, just like similar to the Alter Rebbe, they're learning that beans are much easier to get ruined. And even if it would just ruin a dish of beans, that's enough to exempt you from the sukkah. And the Ramah adds in, even if you don't have that bean dish in front of you. And the Ramah says, and if you don't know that measurement,
Hey, Juan. I'm well.
If you don't know that measurement, then you should evaluate if you would be in your house, it rained, whatever this amount is that you would leave, that would be the amount that you could leave. In other words, if you don't know the measurement of the food heter, then just rely on the regular rule of mitztaer, of being uncomfortable. That's the understanding. That's what it seems to be the understanding of the Shulchan Aruch. Now, this doesn't apply, of course, the first night, even if it rains, you got it. Okay, yep. And okay, so that gives us an understanding. Um, does it mention here about food being congealed? Let's see. Yeah. So the Mishnah Berurah brings that the same way you leave because of the rain, also because of the heat or because of the mosquitoes, and even if you're not mitzvah, but the food is getting ruined. So this is, and for sure, if the person is uncomfortable, that he would be. But even if the food is getting ruined, and he also brings about this, if the food is congealed, if the food is getting congealed. The Sharat Tzion brings down that when you're not ready to eat those foods, you're eating hamaitzi, a certain, you're eating the measurement that you're supposed to, more than a kabetza. So, um, so you should eat that amount before before you're ready to eat these maicholim hanekrushim that ba'oid hischel lechol maicholim hanekrushim kan shechol pasla hamaitzi yosim kabetza. Sarach lechol b'sukkah dafka. V'lo yetze me'asukkah. Don't leave the sukkah because of the foods that you're going to eat later. It's only if you're ready to eat those foods that you should eat. This is what he adds from the Bikurei Yaakov. But anyway, the food is getting ruined, so then that's also considered an exemption. He does mention that if there is a way of the food not getting congealed, then you should try to do that. You wouldn't be exempt. So if there was like some maybe a part of the table where you could put part of the maybe I don't know, one area where it's not as cold. I don't know.
You could have your crock pot, keep
No, it's a problem. A problem to put a crock pot in the sukkah. It's not so simple.
Right. So what about a plata, like a hot,
right. I don't know. It depends. Is that the normal thing to have in your, like in your dining room? I don't know if that would be appropriate. But anyway, so this, but we see this heter. It seems like that's the way Shulchan Aruch and the Alter Rebbe both seem to be learning that there's two heterim here. One is the heter of mitztaer, and the other is the heter of food being not the normal way of eating the food. The food is getting congealed or the food is getting ruined. That's also a heter, sort of a alternative heter than mitztaer, or it's like a different type of mitztaer. It's not the regular uncomforted, the food. And they spell out, even if the person is not mitztaer, just the food is getting ruined. That is like, this is not the normal way of eating. It seems like a teshu kein toduru. You got the normal way of eating is food. Maybe that's the source of this.
From the Ramah, who said you don't even have to have that food with you, or is this this sounds different than what the Ramah said? Ramah said even if you don't have that food, you could still.
Yeah, that was about the rain issue. The rain is even if you don't have the food, that food in front of you of toil, but nevertheless, that's the measurement of food getting ruined. And then, so it seems that that's sort of like a blanket rule. Like, even though your food is not yet ruined, that seems to be a blanket rule that you can leave the sukkah. You know, you don't have that food, okay, but still, that's the rain. The food gets ruined in this rain, you're allowed to leave. When it comes to congealed from the cold and things like that, we don't really have a blanket rule. It seems like at least the Kuriyaki wants to say you have to try to at least, if there's any way around congeal, then, you know, to try to do that. But if not, you're exempt, because the food is not the normal way of eating the food in a congealed way. You know, you want to eat, you know, some dish that's should look normal, not should taste normal and look normal and feel normal, not congealed. It's not enjoyable to eat frozen, you know, the frozen hummus. You know, frozen hummus is not exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so that's the that gives us an understanding how Shulchan Aruch is understanding this Mishnah. Okay, and then the Gemara had said that all 7 days, the Gemara brought a brisa. All 7 days, a person makes a sukkah keva, beisei arai, and if he has kalim noim, he brings them. If he has nice vessels, bring them into the sukkah. Nice matzois, nice, bring them into the sukkah. You know, all these different things that show that this is your real dwelling. The matzois noise are like a good cushion, a good bed, you know, basically anything that would be normal for your house, that's what should be in the sukkah. And so you should bring them into the sukkah. Now the Gemara said that was the brisa. And also that a person should eat and drink and walk in the sukkah. So this is the brisa. That's the end of the brisa, that you would do all those things in the sukkah, because that you're showing that the sukkah is your main dwelling. Then the Gemara asks, so how do we know this? The Gemara brings a brisa of Teishvu came to do. You have to dwell. You make the sukkah keva, beisei arai. So this show dwelling means that you're making it, that this is your main dwelling. And then it gives more examples as similar to what we had before. Kalim noim, matzois nois, all your normal way that you would have in your dining room, in your house, in your bedroom. That's what you should have in the sukkah. And it adds one thing, umashanin b'sukkah, and also you should learn in the sukkah. And then the Gemara asks, you're supposed to learn in the sukkah? Didn't Rava say that you shouldn't learn in the sukkah? The type of learning Gemara you don't learn in the sukkah. The Gemara answered that it depends on if you're learning the Gemara, which is you're learning the way to apply the teachings of the Mishnah, and you're learning how to practically apply them. So there's two ways of doing that. One is to understand the svaras, the reasons for the Mishnah, and then you could apply it. And the other way of learning it is, I already thought about the reasons for it, and I already knew how to apply. I'm just reviewing like what I concluded. So there's two parts to Gemara. Gemara is all about the reasons and how to apply those reasons. There's one way of learning the Gemara that reviewing what I already learned about these reasons. We have the conclusion, so it comes out that this is allowed and this isn't allowed and this is allowed. The other way of learning it is trying to figure out what is going to be allowed based on those reasons. So the academic part of it, that you don't need to dwell in the sukkah. You need to have harchavas hadas, broad air. You have to have a certain level of openness and being sort of like able to think well and be able to concentrate. So that you don't need to be in the sukkah. But for the other type of learning that you're just really reviewing the Gemara, reviewing the conclusions and the what you came up with, that's called girsa. The girsa is just to the Gemara that's already been clarified. You're just like reviewing it. So that would need a sukkah. So that was the Gemara's answer. And then we turn the page and we're up to we did a few lines at the top of the next page, but I'm going to start right at the top of past Amud Aleph 29a, and we're gonna start from Kihad the Rabbah, the Rabbah, the beginning of 29a. 29a. If you have the art scroll, 29a1. Kihad the Rabbah Bar Chama, or there's a different girsa. The Rava Virami Bar Chama. Some say that it's anyway. Kihavu Kaime. These two rabbis, whoever the rabbis are, a different version of. If it's a lot of times in the Gemara, there's a question if it's Rabba or Rava. Sometimes the aleph or the hey at the end got mixed up, and so sometimes you find that there's two versions. Some say it should be Rabba, some say it should be Rava.
Rabbi.
Yeah, or Rami Bar Chama. Yes, yes.
When you're leaning to the side, you're muffled.
Oh, you don't hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
You were leaning to the side.
No problem. I'll just move my Shulchan Aruch to the other side, and that should be fine. Okay, let me start again. We're on page 29a. Can you hear me now? 29a. Good. Kihad the Rava Bar Chama, or the Kihad the Rabba Bar Chama, or Rava Virami Bar Chama. There were two rabbis that were Kihavu Kaimi Mekami de Rav Chizda, that they were in front of Rav Chizda. And when they were in front of Rav Chizda, Mirati Bigamara Bahadi Hadodi. So after they finished learning with Rav Chizda, or when they would get up, I guess, Kihavu Kaimi Mekame de Rav Chizda, when they would get up from in front of Rav Chizda, meaning they finished learning with him, Mirati Bigamara, they would run through the Gemara, Bahade Hadodi, together, Vahadar Ma'aini Besvara, and then they would, after they reviewed what he said, what's permissible, what's not, Hadar Ma'aini Besvara, they would go into the reasons. Why did he say it this way? Why that? And they would think about if they could ask, if there were any questions that they should ask on what he said. So in other words, there was a girsa type of learning and an iyun type of learning. The girsa was reviewing what he concluded, how he applied the laws. And then their type of learning was afterwards, was to decide, to see if they sort of like understood everything he said, or they had questions and would have liked to argue, or at least debate and question the things that he had come up with, if there's any rebuttals and so on. So this was the two types of learning, and the Gemara is giving this example to explain the previous Gemara on 28b on the bottom, where we said there's two types, that some type of learning needs a sukkah, some type of learning doesn't need a sukkah. Depends on how you're learning. Here are the two types of learning. This is this. So Amar Rava. Now comes the next piece. Rava says, Money Mishtia. Money Mishtia are glasses, vessels of drinking, like glasses or mugs, cups. So those type of vessels, bimetalalta, they are meant to be, or they're allowed to be, in the metalalta, in the sukkah. Metalalta is the Aramaic for sukkah. Money michla, vessels of food. Barmi metalalta, those are not to be in the sukkah. What do you mean? You have to eat. The answer is, yeah, you eat. While you're eating, the vessels of food are in the sukkah. But once you finish eating, you should remove them from the sukkah. In fact, there's a halacha that you're not supposed to bring garbage into the sukkah. Leave the garbage outside the sukkah, and you bring the. It's about the respect and for the sukkah, that you don't leave these don't leave dirty things around, just like it would be in your house. You don't leave things that are mios, that are disgusting. You don't leave them around. And actually, maybe the garbage is even more about honor. This is even without honor. This is just not even this is you don't leave in your house. You wouldn't leave vessels that are dirty. You put them in the sink, and you wouldn't just leave them on the table. So here also, you wouldn't leave these vessels in the sukkah. Bring them out once you're finished eating. While you're eating, yeah, it's the normal. That's the normal way. That's the normal way of living. Eating, you do it on a plate. But after it's dirty, you bring it in. Now that's one pshat. There's another pshat. Michla de mana de michla, vessels of food doesn't mean plates, but it means vessels that are used to prepare the food. So, for example, a kneading bowl. A kneading bowl. Do you normally have your kneading bowl on your dining room table? No, it's in the kitchen. So it's not appropriate to bring a kneading bowl in the sukkah. These are things that are not meant to be in the sukkah, and that would be foods that are used to vessels that are used to prepare food. So one understanding is vessels that are used to eat food on, and Tosfos brings this other pshat, yesh mefarshim, that it means the vessels that are used to prepare food. Preparing food is not appropriate to those type of vessels in the sukkah. And then comes the chatzpah v'shachel. These are vessels, also similar idea that certain things are not meant to be left in the sukkah. There's some type of a chatzpah is some type of a pitcher of earthenware that you draw the water with. So that is called a chatzpah. And v'shachel, shachel is some type of pail of shachel. Is like a
wicker basket over here. I don't know.
What does it say? What type of basket?
Wicker basket.
I didn't have the first word.
Oh, wicker basket.
Wicker. Yeah. So yeah. Rashi says made out of wood, but you're right. I guess wicker is a type of it's a part of the tree. So I guess that's how they understand. The only thing is, I don't know. The Lishel eats. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess you could say it means a wicker basket. Anyway, the thing is that these type of items are bar mimetalalta. They should be outside the sukkah, and these are now. We might not understand exactly what they are, but basically in the days when they used these items, the chatzpah and the shachel, they were not normally left inside one's regular dwelling. To tell you that, a pitcher of water you are allowed to have in your sukkah. That I can tell you. So it obviously is like the vessel used. It's first of all, it's earthenware. It's used to take the water, to draw the water, maybe. So for some reason, this is not appropriate in the sukkah. Again, it was something that was used in those days. I don't know that it's used today, or I don't know what exactly it's referring to. But for some reason, we know the reason. It has to do with it wasn't normal to have that on your dining room table. It was, therefore you should not have it in your sukkah. Yes, David.
You want to see a picture?
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty
Egyptian wicker basket. Okay.
Interesting how the water. What's interesting is how does it keep the water from dripping out unless they put some kind of lining inside? I don't know.
It seems like it was used. No, first of all, the chatzpah, it says that they would draw water with, not the shachel. But he's learning that they actually used it to filter the water.
Oh, filter water.
Okay. The filter, I guess, makes sense. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So filtering, you don't do in your dining room table. You do it in the kitchen before you bring it out. So these are not regular pitchers that you would use to pour. Regular pitchers are allowed to be in your sukkah. But whatever this was, okay. Does he have a picture of the chatzpah?
No, this is the only picture.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. I guess it does give it gives us a little understanding. Because when Rashi says made out of wood, you normally don't think of wicker. You would think it's some thick pail or something, right? So I'm glad you showed that to us. Okay. The next thing is, of course, a topic of a lot of discussion. the next case is ushraga. 1 second. So the previous thing was chatzpa and shachil is bar mimetalalta. That's supposed to be outside the sukkah. Now comes the next case, ushraga. And shraga means a candle or menorah, a candelabra. So the shraga is bimetalalta, should be in the sukkah. Va'amri la, and some say bar mimetalalta, outside the sukkah. V'loi pligi, and it's not an argument. Ha b'sukkah gedola, ha b'sukkah ketano. This is talking about a big sukkah, and this is talking about a small sukkah. Now, what does that mean? Candelabra? Don't you need it to see? Well, like what is it referring to? So Rashi here says that the shraga is a ner shel cheres. It's a candelabra of earthenware. It's called a kroishil in Old French, if anyone knows Old French. But it was some oil candelabra that with a wick and so on, and made out of earthenware. And it was, and it says a sukkah katana, that's small sukkah, that's minimum size, 7 handbreadths. So that would be a sukkah that you're not allowed to have it in. But if it's a big sukkah, then you would be allowed to have the this candelabra. So what's the reason? What do you think? Anyone have any thoughts? Why is this you're not allowed to have a candelabra? Yes, Victor.
So I'm cheating a little because it says here that they're worried about the smell of the kerosene in the sukkah. If it's a small sukkah, the smell's gonna be bother you. And if it's a big sukkah, apparently because I guess they used to burn kerosene in those days and it didn't smell so good. It's like the story of Yosef, is that fortunately he went with the spice traders. Normally the traders were kerosene traders.
Kerosene.
Yeah.
So if it's a big sukkah, the smell dissipates more, I guess, in a big sukkah. Is that what they're saying? In a big sukkah dissipates?
That's how they were explaining it. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't see. It's interesting. I didn't see the commentaries say that. I saw a lot of commentaries actually on this Gemara, but I didn't see them say about the smell.
Here it says the same thing here. It says a large sukkah where the lamp and its odor do not disturb those residing in the sukkah. In a small sukkah, the lamp's odor is offensive.
Does he have a source? Does he have a commentary?
Let's see.
They're taking the word basically that.
Which word?
They're just taking the 2 words ha of that opinion and they somehow interpret what that means, but apparently
they're interpreting it. No, I understand. They're giving their own interpretation, but I was just wondering if they had a source who they're basing it on. Who are you using, Victor? This Safaria?
No, this is that Torah app I have.
The Torah app.
The tablet.
Okay. Anyway, so the different commentaries here. Tosis himself has a shot over here. Tosis v'amri la. This Tosis over here wants to say that it must be talking about that the issue is that we're afraid that it's going to burn the sukkah, and which means that the prohibition, that the issue with this candelabra is that it's a fire hazard when it's lit. Now, it's not about having a candelabra in your sukkah. The issue is that if having a lit candelabra in a small sukkah is a fire hazard. Now, what does that mean? Why are we mentioning that you're not allowed to have it? And it sounds like it's a law of sukkah over here, not about laws of fire hazards. So we're talking about having your plates in your sukkah, having your, it seems a little surprising that that you're that we're dealing with a different issue, an issue of fire danger. But there is a pshat that the issue is not that so much, we're not dealing with the danger, we're dealing with the fact that you're going to end up burning down your sukkah and you won't have a sukkah. So it is connected to sukkah more than just danger. There is an element of, in other words, or you're going to have to leave your sukkah, you'll have to run out. So, in other words, it was really an issue of danger. It would be much more of a serious thing, not just outside the sukkah. It should say like it's usher to have it in the sukkah or something. It says here you put it outside the sukkah. So we're dealing with now. The thing is that this is a little different than the previous case. Tosfos says because a previous case was mentioning that while you're eating, you're allowed to have a plate. It's after you finish eating is when you have to bring in the plates. And here, what are we saying? The candelabra, while it's lit, while you're using it, you actually aren't allowed to have it in the sukkah. No, so it's really different. In other words, the previous case was more talking about an issue of, something that's not nice in the sukkah, and you need to, once it's finished its use, you got to get rid of it. You got to bring it out of the sukkah. Here, it's not once it's finished its use, you bring it out. Here, it's while it's doing its use, which is giving light, you got to bring it out of the sukkah because at least if it's a small sukkah, it's a danger of fire. That's the way Tosfos wants to learn. And other commentaries say that it has to do with the fact that it's a small sukkah. And if it's a small sukkah, you are going to be uncomfortable. And it's not the normal way of, you can't bring some big item into this tiny sukkah. Could also be an issue of ruining the measurement of the sukkah. If it depends how big, I guess it is, and where it's placed. But it could be an issue of ruining the measurement of the not having enough space for your, for your either for your food, for the table, for the so it could be an issue of minimizing the space. So these are some of the understandings. There's also another explanation that it's disgusting, and that seems to be what it's meant by the fact that it's earthenware. It's earthenware after it's used once, it gets like disgusting, and it's not nice to be around. You want to throw it out. And that would mean that if it was a candelabra of gold or silver, that would be allowed to be in the sukkah. This is an issue of disgusting, and that fits with the previous cases, that anything that's disgusting you don't want to have in the sukkah. And that would be just like plates that are dirty, you don't have them in the sukkah, so you don't want to have a menorah that's disgusting, it's used already. And it would also fit that the fact that it's used. Plates that are used already, the menorah that's used already, while it's being used, it's okay. But once it's finished its use, it becomes disgusting. It's no longer. It's like those the menorahs that throw away, the disposable menorahs. You don't have to use them one sukkah, one Hanukkah. Not using it. You can use it one Hanukkah maybe. After that, it's disgusting to bring out such a menorah for the next year. So the same thing is with this the candelabra, and it's made out of earthenware. It gets ruined.
You were asking for a source.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is the source for the odor or offensive, but this is the source. It says the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 639:1. A candelabra, a lamp may be placed in a large sukkah, and if the sukkah is small, it has to be placed on the outside.
Yeah, but what's the reason? Here, let's take a look. What 6? Let's take a look. Oh, good idea. Let's see what the Shulchan Aruch says about the. Look it up in Shulchan Aruch. So,
so that wouldn't fit that the candelabra is
here. It says the menorah while it's lit, it has to be tzrich aliyas b'seich sukkah. It should be in the sukkah. If the sukkah is small, in a way that you're worried that it might touch the walls of the sukkah or the schach and the fire to burn it, then you have to put it outside the sukkah, even if it's made out of gold. Because if it's a danger, if it's a danger, that's a danger. Now, it's a custom not to bring a ner shel cheres, earthenware, even in a sukkah gedolah, even in a big sukkah. So it doesn't seem to follow the understanding of Rashi. Rashi says that this is talking about a ner shel cheres. It doesn't seem like that's who the halacha is following. They seem to be following the problem of Tosfos, that we're afraid it's going to start a fire. And when it comes to earthenware, you don't even want to bring an earthenware in because I guess because it's disgusting. Yeah, it doesn't seem to use that reason. Again, this is the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, and in the other Shulchan Aruch, the Beis Yosef, he says over here, after you use these plates, you have to take them out of the sukkah after you finish with your plates. And the menorah could be in the sukkah, but if it's a small sukkah, you put it outside. If it doesn't say the reason, and don't do anything that's embarrassing in the sukkah, so that mitzvahs won't be discussed. Don't do anything buzui. Buzui could mean embarrassing, but it means more like disgusting in the sukkah, because mitzvahs shouldn't be buzui alav. So it's like washing dishes. You wouldn't want to do that in the sukkah. But the cups is not a problem.
Rabbi, is this totally separate from the women have the custom to light at night, like Shabbat and Yom Tov candles in the sukkah?
Well, if it's a small sukkah, this would be part of that issue that you would have to do it outside the sukkah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be about the mitzvah. It could also be about regular candles, but it would be the same rule. It's the same issue that we're afraid you're going to burn your sukkah down, or at least have to leave the sukkah. So either candles could burn the sukkah down.
Well, if you go with the opinion of the odor, then typically for the Yom Tov we use Shem and Zayed, so that wouldn't be the disgusting odor.
Whereas but my point is the
light.
The odor issue we haven't really seen here. I'm not saying that it's wrong. The halacha about the odor is true, probably. That, I mean, I think it would even apply to a big sukkah. If it's giving off an odor, it would probably apply to a big sukkah. And so I don't think that shot is a correct shot in the Gemara. I don't think that's what the Gemara meant. But I do think that the halacha of it is true. The halacha element of it is true, that you can't have anything that's going to cause people to want to leave the sukkah. So it's not wrong. It's just I don't think it's the meaning of I don't think Shulchan Aruch is learning it that way either. So the Mishnah Berurah brings this reason, even though the Beis Yosef doesn't say it clearly here. The Mechaber, Rabbi Yosef Tyra, doesn't say clearly. He brings about burning, that it might burn it down, and he says maybe if you really need a light and you want to put it inside a lantern, and it's low, you're not afraid it's going to light the schach on fire and so on. Anyway, but that's basically the way Shulchan Aruch brings it. It doesn't say about the kerosene. Okay, so but I'm not saying it's a bad shot. It doesn't seem like Shulchan Aruch accepted it, and I didn't see it in the other commentaries. Anyway, so the other interpretations are that it could take away the oxygen from the sukkah. Maybe you want to learn that's what it means. Hevel haner would mean the kerosene. I don't think so. Hevel haner means like there's something to do with the oxygen that.
I know it sounds. If your schach is schach, then there should be enough air coming through the schach to be all right. I mean, otherwise your schach is too tight.
Maybe that's how they're learning. Maybe this pshat is based on this. It's Rabbi Yochanan Milonil has a pshat that it's because of the hevel haner. Hevel haner normally I don't think of as a chemical, as a type of more of a. I would think of it as oxygen, but maybe that's how they're learning. Okay, interesting. Anyway, so bottom line is we have all these interpretations, but Shulchan Aruch seems to follow the Tosfos's interpretation of this halacha. Okay, so now the Mishnah continues. The Gemara continues. Yardu Gesham. What happens if the rain fell? Tana, it was taught in a brayso. Mishatisrach hamikvah when the mikvah gets disgusting, shel grisen, this cooked dish of grisen. And grisen, I believe, means split peas. I don't know what you have over there, Victor David, but if I'm not mistaken,
It's a pounded grain.
Pounded grain, grisen,
Yeah,
pounded
that's
grain. Okay,
interesting.
okay. What is it? Grisen shall pull. Okay. So what does the art scroll say, Robert? We're on 29a, Misha Tisrach HaMikvah. That's when the rain falls, it's when it ruins the dish. What type of dish?
Unmute, Robert, you gotta unmute. You're muted.
Robert, you need to unmute. Oh.
It says, if the rain had fallen into the sukkah, he may leave the sukkah if the rain is sufficient to ruin the porridge.
Porridge. And then later in the Gemara, a few lines later, on 29a, it says what type of porridge? Porridge of
Right, hold on.
Porridge of something, some
Split beans. Well, it says right here. He is exempt when the rain is sufficient to ruin a porridge made of split beans.
Split beans. Okay, yeah, that's the way I always learned it. Okay, so thank you, Robert.
Right,
came to my rescue over here.
All right,
lifesaver. Okay, so so that's the understanding that the rain ruins that. For some reason, in Shulchan Aruch, the way it understands this as is that type of a dish gets ruined much faster than other foods. Abai Habakar Yosef Kamed Rav Yosef Talalta. The Abai was sitting in front of Rav Yosef in a sukkah. Metalalta, again, is sukkah, is the Aramaic word for sukkah. So it says, Nashav Zika, the wind blew because Maisi Tzivasa, and it brought some type of a pieces from the schach.
Splinters,
some type of splinter, right?
Well,
thank you. Splinters, Kisman, right? Rashi says the splinters. It somehow caused the splinters of the schach to fall down. In Amar Lehu, Rabbi Yosef says, Panuli mani mehacha, remove my vessels from here, meaning help me leave the sukkah. Amar Le Abaye v'hatnan. Abaye said, what do you mean? Didn't we learn Misha Tisrach HaMikvah? You got to wait till the rain comes. Not there's just because the wind started coming and caused the wait till the rain. The rain is Misha Tisrach HaMikvah. When this porridge gets ruined, when this the dish of split beans gets ruined. So Amar Lei, so Rav Yosef says, Lididi, for me, Kivan Danina Daiti, since my mind is very delicate, Kamisha Tisrach HaMikvah Damili. It's as if my porridge has been ruined, and therefore I am allowed to leave the sukkah. This is called, for me, I am mitztaer. I am in pain, and therefore I am able to. I'm allowed to leave the sukkah. Of course, there's this discussion here. Can anyone just say that I'm in pain, or does it have to be something that's common, a common issue? I can't handle this. I have to leave the sukkah, or right. let's say some orange juice spills on their shoe. So you say I am uncomfortable.
Hold on. Did Juan pick up the credit card?
No. Could you just say that, or is it something that has to be like a group of people? So the thing is,
I'm delicate. I'm delicate.
Right? Is that good enough? Yeah. Thank you. Could that be? Is that good enough to say I'm delicate, or would it need to be a large? So there is a concept that people there's like a group of people that are delicate people, So if people who are in that category, that all delicate people would be concerned about this. In other words, the delicate people have certain rules, but you can't just say, "Oh, me, I can't handle even." No. If generally delicate people, that's one way of understanding it. That would be a heter. Okay. Another way of understanding it is that if a person is known that they're a delicate person, in all areas, that would be also a heter. So in other words, it seems like there's two ways of following. There's the way general delicate people are, or the way people who are, if you're really a delicate person in all areas, that would be an exemption. Should we do one more piece? I'll do another minute. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in the Brisa, a person was eating in the sukkah and rained. The yarad, yardu geshamim, the yarad, and he left the sukkah. We don't make him go back and go up to his roof where he has his sukkah until he finishes his meal, meaning he can finish his meal where he is. He already left the sukkah. He was eating in the sukkah and it rained. He left the sukkah. We don't make him go back to the sukkah if it stops raining. What happens if he was sleeping in the sukkah and it rained and he left the sukkah? We don't make him go back until the light of day comes. And then we'll soon see what that means exactly. But we're going to stop here. Okay, Sei gesund, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.